Okay, let me just pause the music really quick and we will get started. I'll put the music back on, but I just want to go ahead and introduce myself. Hello, my name is Kelsey Baez, and I am the WellCats nutritionist GA here at Texas State. A little bit of what I do are obviously these cooking classes. Their PAN stands for Proactive Nutrition, if you weren't aware of that. And I just basically bring recipes for us to be able to try and cook together that are rich with nutrients and healthy for us. Aside from that, I also do one-on-one consultations that you can sign up for. Josh Argulis is the person to contact there so that you can get set up. And I also do seminars and just a variety of things, blogs and whatnot, all for WellCats. So let's go ahead and jump into our recipe. I'm going to go ahead and share my recipe here. Okay. It shows that I'm sharing. All right. So today we are going to be making salmon tacos with a mango salsa. The servings are about 8 tacos is what this is calling for. Calories per taco is about 232 calories with 18 grams of protein, 9 grams of fat, and 19 grams of carbs. So it's really a great distribution there. I would pair this with maybe like some steamed vegetables or even some rice just to have an added fullness to it, but this is really well distributed out. So we're going to look at here the ingredients. So I broke it up into what the taco is and then also what the mango salsa is. So that hopefully that'd be a little bit easier for everybody. The salmon here, we've got 1.5 pounds of salmon, and then the what we're going to be seasoning it with is right here, the chili powder, cumin, oregano, salt, pepper. We're going to top the salmon with a little bit of olive oil so that that seasoning can stick to it, and it's going to keep our salmon moist while we're cooking it. It's just a step I like to have. You could actually omit the olive oil if you don't want to do that. And then I have small corn tortillas here. Since it is 8 servings, that would be 8 corn tortillas. The mango salsa is going to be a large mango that's going to be chopped, and I'll show you how we do that, and we'll even talk a little bit about how we find a good mango in the store. We are going to use half of a large avocado, some red onion, chopped cilantro, and juice from a lime. I am preheating my oven already, so that is good to go. And we're going to go ahead and start jumping in here. We're going to make the salmon first. So I stopped that screen share and let me just do this so that we are all set up. Okay, so the salmon's only going to take about 20-ish minutes to make. So I'm going to be doing a little bit more talking and explanation through the different things that we do or that we're going to be doing with this recipe. So first thing that I wanted to go ahead and talk to you about was the salmon. So this actually is a pound. The recipe calls for 1.5 pounds. We got a pound because it's what I could get from HEB. But whenever we're looking at salmon, what we want to try and do, there's a hole in this one, unfortunately, but that's normal, is that I got the center cut here. But what we want to do whenever we're cooking salmon is try and get one that's flat throughout. Sometimes you'll find where it'll be really thick in this portion and then very thin right here, and then it bubbles. So whenever you go and you cook it, it doesn't cook evenly, and then over here is kind of like a weird texture, and then this might be undercooked. So trying to have it to where it's an even thickness is really a good thing to be sought after for salmon. It's not saying that you can't do the other ways. It's just this is easier, especially if you're new to salmon. This salmon actually has a skin on it. I'll go ahead and show you, and then I'll just have to wash my hands. You can buy it without the skin off, but whenever it comes to cooking, I like to cook salmon side or the fish side down, and it's going to just keep some of those oils present there that the fish has that we really want to keep. And it also protects you from burning the bottom layer right here with it. There was something else I was going to say. Oh, whenever you're picking out fish, like let's say you're going to a fish market, you see how this skin is kind of shiny, it's intact, and it looks wet. That is sign of good fresh salmon. As salmon ages, it'll actually start to like dry and kind of flake on the scale. So just something to be aware of, that whenever it's dry and it's flaky and you can see like the individual scales, that's a sign that it's an older salmon. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad, but it means that that's probably when you're going to go home and cook immediately that day. Salmon in the refrigerator is good for about 2-3 days max in the refrigerator, and then you need to cook it if you haven't already. Just washing my hands here since I was touching raw meat. Give me just a moment, I'm sorry. The things that they edit out of cooking shows, you know. But it's an important and crucial step. So these seasonings that we have, I've actually already combined, but this is what it looks like. And my seasoning actually is exactly like I followed it exactly to the recipe of what I've shared with you guys from what's going on there, from the recipe. The only difference I would say is that my chili powder that I'm using is actually a chipotle chili powder, so it's a little bit spicier, but the overall effect would be the same regardless of what chili powder you have. So let's go ahead and get this salmon in the oven so that we can enjoy some delicious tacos. All right, so we're doing a tablespoon of olive oil on the top of this. I patted the top of this salmon dry with a paper towel just so that it removes the liquid that's on top of it, because then you get like these white bubbles of like coagulation there. So I'm going to go ahead and measure this out because I normally do just an eyeball method, but I'm going to go ahead and show you. This is a teaspoon. So a teaspoon to make a tablespoon is 3. So the recipe calls for a tablespoon. So I'm going to do 3 teaspoons here. My tablespoon is dirty. That's why we're doing this. And because I was seasoning the seasoning, I use the teaspoons as well. All right, so that's there. Now at this point, you could use your hand to rub. I happen to have a little like basting brush. So I'm just gonna baste. And since I have a hole right here, I'm gonna make sure that I'm just getting some of that olive oil in there. My pan, I have olive oil spread on the bottom of that too, just so that my skin doesn't get stuck on there. I prefer parchment paper, but apparently I used the last of it last night, so I can't show you that. Do not use wax paper. Wax paper cannot go in the oven. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna spread this out and have an even coating as we can. And it's really however thick you want. Now remember, mine's half a pound lighter than it's supposed to be, so I'm not using all of that. But I have a nice little thin layer here. That looks good to me, and it smells so aromatic. It smells great. So this, I'm gonna go ahead and just pop in the oven, but this is what we're looking for. This is what we're going for. I'm gonna place on the spinner rack, and I'm gonna put 20 minutes on my timer so I don't forget about that. Let's get started on some of our chopping. And once we're done making our salsa, we'll move over. Some of you may not know that the layout of my kitchen, my prep area is on one side and then my cooking area is on another. There's not much cooking in this. There's a lot of chopping, but we are going to warm up our corn tortillas because it makes them more pliable. It makes them more tasty. So we will be making a jump over there, but we're going to chop first. But just to give you a heads up. So here we go. I've got the limes. I've got an avocado. We're going to be using half of that, and we've got the mango. Now, I told you that I was going to explain to you about the mango and how we pick these out. So it's common that people try and buy a mango that has like a two-tone color. So like you can see this red that's right here. This red can actually project out halfway or even be predominantly the color of the mango. That is one way to look at it. However, it's not foolproof. So for instance, this one is kind of a little deceiving because it's obviously green. But what I'm looking for is that I can push it. And I don't know if you can tell, yeah, look, you can see that it's just kind of like staying there. That means that it's juicy. Also, whenever I pick it up, this feels heavy to me. Like if I look at this and I'm holding it, it feels heavier than it looks. So that tells me that it's juicy. Another way to tell is that right here, this one, okay, look at this. All right, so if you squeeze it, a little bit of juice comes out. Yeah, that is a good mango, my friends. So it's kind of a similar concept with the avocado. The avocado, it depends on the type that you get because there's like Haas and then other. But for the most part, if it's got the ridges, that's usually a pretty good avocado. And then whenever you touch it, you want it to be firm, but you don't necessarily want your fingerprint to stay in it like the mango did. So I'm pushing it and I can feel the flesh moving around, but it's not, my thumb's not sinking into it. So let's go ahead and start cutting with the mango. Now there is a giant seed in the middle of this mango. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my hands like as far away from the knife as possible, but I have to balance it. And I'm going to start a little off center. And as I cut down the mango, I'm going to do a slight curve so that I'm tracing the bottom of that seed. So I'm looking for the seed. I just found it. And now I'm going to start tracing along the side of it with my knife. There we go. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Now it's going to be a little bit easier. I have my knife more angled away from my hands this go around because this is a bit trickier. And I'm just doing the same thing I just told you about. I'm looking for that seed and then I'm just going around there. Now I have my seed isolated and I'm just going to do the same thing but on the side. And then normally, I'm not going to do it right now, but then I snack on the flesh that's around the seed because that is so good and so juicy. So let me go ahead. I actually got it pretty good there. All right. So next, what we're going to do with our mango is that we're going to create a grid pattern. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push down and I'm going to go one way. And however wide I'm cutting these, so you can see this barrier right here, that's how wide my mango is going to be. You want to be careful not to push too hard because you don't want to cut through the back and get yourself. Let me see. I've never done it on the cutting board, but that'd probably be better to demonstrate. Yeah, you know what? It works just as good. Let's start doing this. This is a new habit for me. I'm going to start doing it on the cutting board because I like my hand and I don't want to cut it. All right. So as you can see now, I have a grid pattern, and this is the basis of what my mango chunks are going to look like. So now what I'm going to do is I have my hand on both sides. I'm going to take these fingers and I'm going to push it so that it sticks out like this. Pretty, huh? Now, if you were just eating mango, you could eat these little cubes like this and just go to town. But since we're making the salsa, I'm going to start in the middle because it's easier for me to access. You just pick a point that you think is going to be easiest for you to get to. And we just start cutting. And that is how we cut the mango. It smells so good, you guys. It smells so juicy, and I can smell like that citrusy smell, the vitamin C and all those antioxidants. Oh my goodness, this is going to be delicious. I didn't put tomatoes in this recipe. However, you most certainly could dice up. I would say if you wanted to add tomatoes, maybe like 1 or 2 Romana tomatoes. And then let's go ahead and do the next one. So again, we're going to create our grid pattern. You know, now that I'm doing this with the cutting board, it is silly that I ever held it in my hand. The things that you realize when you're being watched, you know? So continuing to cut here, getting these grid patterns. So some real great benefits of mangoes is that they are basically packed with everything. They are kind of a powerhouse. They actually have a little bit of protein in them. They have folate, vitamin A, vitamin E, magnesium, and vitamin C. And that's just some of the things. It's got a lot of B vitamins as well. Listing off all those things, what does that mean? Well, basically that means immune system health. It can mean potential cardiac heart benefits. It can mean potential, this is if you're deficient, but it can be eye health as well. There's really a lot of benefits there. That folate, you're getting digestive support, as well as what am I looking for? Helping your microbiome, which is basically the gut bacteria in your body, in your intestines. So there's truly a lot of benefits with the mango, which actually this recipe, the reason why I chose this recipe is because the theme for this month for Pan is lifelong health. And whenever we're bringing together this nutrient and this delicious meal, we're just really promoting our health. And that's because of the things that I just said. So like the antioxidants and the folate, vitamin A, all those delicious things. We'll talk about salmon too in a minute. Let's start with our avocado so that we can get that going. So avocado, again, big pit in the middle. I'm going to get my hand opposite side of the knife and I'm going to slice down and I'm going to find the pit. I'm now at the bottom of the pit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to level off my knife. I don't know if you just saw that. I was up here. I pushed it down. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my knife where it is and I'm going to trace around that seed and I'm going to push the avocado around the knife as I'm rotating it. And this is a good way that you can actually line up your knife, your cut with the way that it was. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist one side clockwise and the other way counterclockwise. And now I've got my avocado. This is the avocado that we're going to save because we're only using half of the avocado. So this one with the seed in it, we're going to save and we're going to put it in an airtight container. You could also put a little bit of lemon juice on it that will further help it from browning, but that airtight container really is what's going to help it from browning. So this is the same concept as the mango. We're going to do a gridiron pattern. Avocados are delicious and they're kind of popular right now for being a healthy choice. The reason for that is because of the type of fats that are in it. It has some monounsaturated fats and it has a little bit of omegas, I think. But this, they do have saturated fat, which is something that we want to limit. So that's why we normally don't go above half a avocado per serving. Well, yeah, per serving. So that's why we're using half because you're going to get a quarter of a serving. So what I'm doing right now is we don't flip this one inside out like the mango. I guess you could, I just never have. I think it would smush everything. So I'm just using a spoon and I am pushing along that skin because it's tough enough to handle it. And I am putting it into my mango. That's gone. Let me throw this away. That salmon is smelling so good already. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna go ahead and mix this up a little bit and then we're gonna go into cutting the onion. If you have cooked with me before, you know that I love showing you the onion trick. My hands are a little bit slippery from the avocado and the mango, so I just need to rinse my hands off there. So yeah, let's go ahead and do the onion first. So there are two to orient you to the onion. There's the root and there's this thing. We're gonna cut this side off, okay? So let's just go ahead. I've got my hands opposite of my knife, and I'm gonna slide that down. First step done. Woo! Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut right through the middle of the root. This is gonna keep the onion intact for all of the future steps that we're about to do here for cutting our onion. If you do this backwards, then your onion's not gonna stay together and everything's gonna slip around. Now I am cutting back, or pulling back, I guess is a better explanation of that. Pulling back that first layer that has that skin on it, or the shell. So what I'm gonna do is my hands are like this on the onion, and I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna cut this way, and that's gonna start setting up the framework for my diced onion. Now, I'm always keeping my hand parallel to the knife because that's gonna keep me from being cut. If you look and you see, I'm not going all the way through the onion either. So I'm going right about to almost to where it's the end. And then I'm pulling the knife out, sliding it out. Again, so that it maintains where it's supposed to be. And let's see here. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is we've cut this way. Now I'm going to cut this way on the knife. And again, this is setting up the framework for how big my dices are going to be. So I want them relatively small. So I'm going to put my marks closer together. And I'm getting these cuts as close to the edge of the top of the onion as possible. All right, now here's the magic. We're gonna cut the opposite way. So we were cutting this way, now I'm cutting this way. And again, I'm gonna cut them thin because that's gonna make my onion smaller. Okay. There we go. All right, so we're only using a quarter cup of onion. And a quick way to know what a quarter cup looks like, put your hand like this, and it fits in there like that. That's good. So if my hand was flat and I filled it up, that would be about a cup to 3 ounces. Oh, this onion, it's making my eyes water, you guys. Whew. Okay. So let's move this onion off to the side because I don't have my storage containers. All right, whenever it comes to cutting a jalapeno, you could cut the top off of it, but if you cut the top off of it, you're gonna leave all the seeds in here and you're gonna have to dig them out. So what I like to do is I start from the top and I cut down through the middle and then I carry it over and I do the same thing on the other side. I am having a hard time right now. My eyes are very watery. All right. So now I can crack them open and then I'm just going to go through and I'm going to cut out these seeds. Oh, excuse me. I'm sure you can hear me crying at this point. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're gonna cut it with the membranes facing us because that stabilizes the pepper more. If you don't remove the seeds, like I'm leaving a couple in here, it's just gonna make, I believe that it makes the heat, the Caspian, a little bit higher in the salsa, which I'm totally okay with. All right, so this calls for a whole jalapeno. Let me see. So I'll go ahead, and this is a personal preference thing. I'm gonna mix in what I just had, what I just cut, and I'm gonna see if that looks like enough jalapeno for me. You can definitely go up to a full jalapeno if that's what you need. Okay. Actually, yeah, I think I'm gonna do a little bit more because whenever we look at this and I'm starting to toss it around, there isn't much there. Now, know that our salsa isn't done yet either. So we are going to, let's go ahead. Yeah, I'm gonna add it. I'm gonna add it. Let's just go for it. I'll dice all this up and then I'll put in half of it and see my thoughts from there. Okay. Actually, I'm gonna just go through and cross these a little bit more because they look a little big to me. I don't want a big bite of jalapeno. I want big bites of mango is my goal. I just put all that in there. All right, we're committed. We're committed, everybody. But you know what? Actually, it looks pretty good. I don't regret that decision. We probably would have done it. So this is just a faster option. I do think I'm gonna add in a little bit more purple onion. So I'm losing my onion in the midst of all of the jalapeno that I'm adding. All right. So next we have our cilantro that we're gonna add in here. Cilantro, a little trick on how to keep it is this is the bag that it came in and I just trimmed it so it's shorter and I created an umbrella over it. I just have my cilantro sitting in some water here and it preserves it and I can keep it in my refrigerator for like 2 weeks, if not more. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this out. That's a lot of cilantro. Let me do about half of that. And because it's going into the bowl, I'm not worried about the stems. The stems actually are really great flavor and it's going to concentrate that cilantro smell. So I'm chopping them up in here with it. Sometimes if I'm using like cilantro as a garnish or something, then yes, I'm going to only use the leaves. But because this is going into the salsa and I'm making a sauce out of it, where I want a heavy presence of cilantro, then I want to include those stalks. This meal is so aromatic. It smells delicious. I am so excited to share this with you. It's delicious. I went ahead and added all that in. Looks great. Hello, random mango trying to escape. Next, we're gonna do our limes. So a little trick that I learned from my Dominican mother-in-law that I had no idea beforehand is that whenever you're gonna juice a lime, roll it around and it softens it up and you get more juice. I can't really fully explain why this is so magical, but trust me when I say it is. So it makes you want to keep rolling it until it's tender. Like if you look, you can see my thumb presses going in there. That's going to be a juicy lime whenever I go to cut it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this one in half. I actually have a lime juicer. So I'm going to put that in here. Our salmon sounds like it's just about done. I'm gonna leave it in there for a little bit because I don't think it smells fully done yet. I want it to be, while I can smell it, I want it to be a little bit more fragrant. All right, let's put this lime in here. And the recipe calls, for 2 limes. It's really to taste though. So whatever sounds good to you. And it depends on the lime too, right? So, all right, let me kind of show you the difference here. So I'm pushing this. I don't know if you can see, but there's no give in the, no give in the peel of the lime. This one in general is pretty firm. Oh, I wanted to tell you that if you get an avocado and it is too ripe, like if you buy it and it's really hard, or if you're like me, you get it from curbside and they give you one that's really hard and not ready to eat, you can put it in a brown paper bag and let it set for like a day, and that will accelerate the process of it ripening so that you can use it quicker. All right, so I don't know if you can see, but I can, like, if I wanted to spend more time on it, I could, but for the most part, that's good enough because it's really broken it up. So let's go ahead, put this lime in here, and then we're gonna make our jump over to the, what's it called? Stove. Thank you. Yes, the stove. And that will be where we warm up our tortillas. And then that salmon should be just about perfect. And then we will make our tacos and I will tell you what I think. I've done this recipe before with shrimp. So just using shrimp instead of the salmon. And it is delicious. It's a popular thing in my family, popular flavor. I'll also substitute out the mango sometimes, and I'll use pineapple or orange. The point is just getting that citrus in there because it's delicious. All right, I had to try it. I'm sorry, guys. It is delicious. It was too much jalapeno though, just because it's a bitter flavor. All right, let's move over here. I might pull the salmon out so we can look at it. And if it's not ready, I can talk to you about why I think it's not ready. Okay, one moment. We're also gonna do temperature checks too, so that'll help. Let me pull this out. It's starting to sizzle. It might be ready now. Let's see. Ooh. All right. It looks really blackened, and I can hear that sizzle, and that's this. You can't see. This is it. So it's blackened, and this isn't burnt. Remember, whenever we put this in the oven, it was a dark seasoning to begin with. But the skin on it is what's sizzling with that seasoning all around it. So what I'm going to do is I can tell from this angle that's looking pretty pink. It looks a little white in the camera, but it's pretty pink over here. So I'm thinking it's actually done, which is great because then we'll just heat up like 1 or 2 tortillas because you don't need to see me heat up 8. Let me get a thermometer so that we can check the temperature. Where's my thermometer? Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my pan here, and I'm going to turn it on a high heat because we want it hot so that we're just flipping it really quickly. Now, whenever you can't see what I'm doing. All right. Whenever we are checking for a meat temperature, if you have a bone in the meat, you want to check right next to the bone. This obviously doesn't have bone in it. So the other thing that we want to do whenever we're checking meat is that we want to check it in the thickest place possible. So that for me is right here. So I'm going to stick it right in, and I'm putting it at an angle, and I'm going to the middle of the meat. I'm not pushing it so far that it goes past and under the meat either, because then that wouldn't be an accurate reading. I'm looking for a 145 temperature range, and I want it to stay that temperature for like 10 seconds. So let's see, it's looking good. I'm actually sitting right at 145. It's probably like a good 5 seconds. We'll call that 10. All right, so we're gonna call this done. It looks good. A little bit of juice came out whenever I took that out, so I know it's still juicy and delicious. We're gonna let it set for a minute. Let it cool. I'm gonna turn off this oven because it's hot. So we're gonna let this set and cool because then we can either dice it up or we can flake it out. I'm gonna flake it and use a fork, and we'll try and do that. And then I feel like the chopping it would be obvious. You'd move it and just cut it like how I showed you on the mangoes and stuff. So let's see. I'm using a non-stick pan for this. If you've cooked with me before, you know I generally use stainless steel. I find that that's really hard to cook to heat up tortillas on. You can do it absolutely. I just haven't mastered the skill. I'm not good at it. But whenever we put it on, we're gonna twist it, and we're gonna make sure that it doesn't stay in one spot. And we're looking for it to kind of just brown up a little bit. I think the pan's hot, but I'll show you a way to test it. I'm gonna go get my hand wet. So if you're ever not certain with how hot your pan is, you should be able to throw water on it and see it sizzle. You can't really see it sizzle, but you can hear it sizzle, and I can see water droplets dancing around. Because the water droplets are dancing and moving around, it's warm enough. If they just like kind of sat there, then you need your pan warmer. Okay, so let's go. And we're just gonna slap one of these on here. I put it so whenever I picked this up, it was curved. I don't know if you can see that well, it's hard to tell. But anyway, this lip right here is curved up. So I put it curved side down so that it can basically relax it, so that whenever I flip it over and cook it, if I cook it with the curved side up, the tortilla is going to kind of curl in more on itself. Here we go. I didn't really talk to you all about the benefits of salmon. We're going to flip that again. So salmon has a lot of great components to it. We'll use this instead. So the salmon has like omega-3s. DHA and EPA are the most common forms, or the most prevalent form in the omegas, or in the salmon. And those DHA and EPA are really helpful with like heart health and reducing inflammation are some great benefits. Additionally, salmon has been linked to lowering depression and boosting brain health. It's also been credited to having bone health, supporting bone health. All right, do you see how this is popping up and I'm getting these little bubbles? That means it's finally warming up and it's getting ready. This is good stuff. We want it a little toasty. I'm gonna get a plate ready. All right. This is a good tortilla. All right, so I have my plate here. I'm gonna go ahead and call this tortilla done. And I'm gonna throw it in my tortilla warmer I have a tea towel in there. You could use a paper towel as well, but that towel is gonna help maintain that temperature, and also got a little too hot there. Got a little too hot. Let's slap one of these on here. All right. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna leave those in there. And while this one's heating up, I will go ahead and we will grab a fork and we will start breaking down this salmon. So this pan's getting too hot. So let me turn that down. All right, the salmon, here, I'll move you over here so you can see what I'm doing easier. Lots of movement today, I apologize. Let's see here. All right, now you can see we're calling this done. All right, so I'm just gonna take my fork and I'm gonna push it down. If you look, that is so tender, it flakes itself out. There's not much work I have to do. I find this easier than chopping because even if you chop it up, it's probably gonna end up like this anyhow. But if you see, I mean, look at that, it's beautiful. Let's assemble a taco, shall we? All right. We're gonna take our plate, put a taco, we'll do 2 tacos, why not? One serving doesn't, or one portion doesn't mean that you only have to eat one. So I'm gonna throw some of my salmon on here. The skin is actually stuck to the bottom of the pan, which is normal. It's if you let the pan cool and then you take, then it's easier to take off. And I'm mentioning the fact that it's stuck on the bottom because I just want you to know that I'm not including it in my taco. Although I will say that my husband really enjoys eating the skin with salmon. That's his preference. Just because it traps and even more of those omegas that we were talking about earlier. So that's pretty good. We don't want to overfill our tacos because then they're really hard to pick up and eat. And then we got our salsa. Go ahead and just top that off here. And then that's what it looks like. Let me go ahead and bring you over so that you can watch me eat it and I can kind of talk you through what it tastes like. Okay. I'm really excited. This smells really good. I do think I have some red salsa in the refrigerator. I might add a little bit of hot sauce to it too, but I'm gonna do just a straight up bite and see how that is, and I'll just let you know. It's so good. It's so good. Too much jalapeno. It looked good, then I thought it was too much, and then I didn't know, and now I'm sticking with it's too much. I'm gonna get a paper towel here. I am getting covered in the oil from the salmon, but I really recommend trying this. This is delicious. I'm gonna take another bite and see if I can describe it a little bit better than this is delicious. One of my favorite things about salmon, I'm not someone that grew up eating fish. I never really truly enjoyed fish. And then it was something that I kind of taught myself to like. So salmon in general to me has a much less fishier taste. And then whenever you're pairing it with this salsa and everything else in there, like to me, it's the equivalent of chicken. I don't get a fishy flavor at all from that. There's a lot of spice in this, and it's actually not from the jalapeno, at least not mine. It would depend. Every jalapeno is a little different, right? But the spice is from the salmon seasoning, the chipotle powder. So be aware of that. You might cut it back like do like 2 teaspoons instead of a tablespoon if you're not really going for spicy, because that's what's making my nose run right now. It's not the jalapeno, it's the chipotle seasoning. I use chipotle chili powder. So that's what's going on here. But yes, I definitely recommend that you try this recipe. It is phenomenal. That salsa is going to stay in your refrigerator if you make extra, and you could have it for a couple extra days. But this is something to try. It is delicious. So I thank you very much for your time. I hope that you try this. And if you do, let me know how it goes. I want to hear how you like this and what we can do to improve it. Excuse me, I'm sorry. That's spicy. All right. Well, thank you so much. And I hope that you have a wonderful day.